Chapter 8. English class passed without incident. Miss Plimsoll distributed word lists for her pupils to take home. The more words you know, she explained, as always, the more exactly you can think. There were some difficult new words, John noticed. Avias, indigestion, acidity, unhealthiness, moderation, digestibility. As Miss Plimsoll explored the meaning of each one, it seemed to John as though they all had something bearing on his present uncomfortable condition. I wonder if Miss Plimsoll's in on this. At last the bell rang. Very well, class, Miss Plimsoll said. Time for outside activities. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Miss Plimsoll. Miss Plimsoll gave the signal for the dismissal, and the pupils in the front row filed out, followed by those in the second row, including John and Susan. Susan played a violin in the school orchestra, and usually she and John went to the rehearsals in the auditorium together. This time Susan hurried on ahead of him. John followed very slowly. The members of the orchestra were sitting at the music stands on the auditorium stand when John, carrying his dark blue trumpet case, got to his chair in the brass section. Miss Quaver had already begun to explain a difficult passage to the girl who played the flute. Just after Jay sings, nestling, chirp, and flee, she was saying, you come in with your thrill doodle, oodle, 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 oo. Do you see the place on your score? Now, score is your sheet of music. Good. Aw, John, Miss Quaver exclaimed, seeing him in this place. I'm glad you're not absent. As I have just told the others, this afternoon we're having the first joint rehearsal of my arrangement of A Boy Song by James Hogg. We've been over all the individual parts and all the sections, you will recall. Now it's time to fit the pieces together. John nervously opened his trumpet case and took out his shiny gold trumpet from his bed of scarlet velvet. Now inside your case is usually this really, really soft fabric so that it doesn't scratch your instrument. The beautiful new instrument gave him confidence. He worked the bells nimbly with his fingers and looked up at Miss Quavery again. Now, John, she said, tell me when your little solo begins. Right after the end of the second verse, John promptly replied. He had practiced his part every evening in the basement of his home for the last 2 weeks. He knew every note perfectly after the line. That's the way for Billy and me. Good, Miss Quaver said. And don't forget what I told you, John. This is a happy song, and I want you to play ta-ta, 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 ta. Simply repeat the rhythm of the voice. And I want you to be light and lively. This is supposed to be a song of the boy who loves romping in the country. Ta-ta, 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 ta. John thought that shouldn't be too difficult. Even with the whole orchestra listening to him, he had played it over and over at home, but he would have to try extra hard here. This was to be his first solo. Everyone else was depending on him to play it properly. Right, said Miss Quaverly brightly with her baton. Then she rapped twice sharply on the music stand before her. All the musicians brought their instruments to their playing positions. Susan poised her bow over the strings of her violin. John held his trumpet close to his mouth and wiggled his fingers on the valves. Miss Quaver's baton moved from side to side, up and down. The cymbals clashed and the drums thumped. The pianist brought her fingers down on the ivory keys of the piano. The violinist and the cellist made their ween and whomping sound. All were in perfect unison. The rehearsal had begun. After the introduction, one of the older boys began to sing, where the pools are bright and deep, where the gray trout lies asleep, up the river and over the lea, that's the way for Billy and me. I don't know if that's the right sound, but I give it a try. After the last line of the first verse, John's fellow trumpeters echoed the rhythm of the singer's voice. Ta-ta, 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 ta. Mrs. Quavery smiled approvingly at the successful performance, and with her baton gave the singer the signal to begin the second verse. Where the blackbirds sing the latest, oh, and oh, went Pepee, where the hawthorn blooms the sweetest, where the nestling chirp and flee. The flute warbled accordingly to plan. That's the way for Billy and me. Sorry, I did my best. John swallowed with an effort and put his mouthpiece to the trumpet to his lip for his solo. The mouthpiece instantly changed to chocolate. Then almost as fast the chocolate spread along the instrument, changing all the flashing gold into a dull brown. The first note came out fairly true. Ta! But chocolate trumpets cannot withstand much pressure. The hole in the mouthpiece softened and clogged up, and the valve stuck as John desperately tried to finish his part. Miss Quaver's eyes almost popped out of her head as she listened to him play ta-ta-tu-ta-tur-tit. It sounded as though John was trying to play a soap-filled bubble pipe. Terribly flustered, he put down his trumpet. Mrs. Quaver was speechless. The orchestra was rocked by an uproar of laughter. The other trumpeters leaned over toward John's chair and picked up the trumpet. "It's a chocolate trumpet!" he shouted derisively. No wonder it sounded like that. John Midas was trying to play a chocolate... John didn't wait to hear it anymore. He fled from the stage and out of the playground. Without stopping even to look around, he ran through the stone gateway and homeward.